My name is Oliver Andrews. I play bass, cello, piano, and I'm learning guitar. I am from Denver, Colorado. My sister is 2 years older than me, and she started playing violin in 2nd grade, so when I was in kindergarten. And when 4th grade hit, we were able to play an instrument at our school. We had just moved, so the rules were different, I guess. And anyway, my friend and I decided, okay, we're gonna play an instrument, which one we do? There was a big thing where you go around the school gym with there's like a table with each of the instruments, and you'd play one, and we'll play each of them, they'd clean it, of course, and you decide which instrument you want to play. And my friend Nick and I decided to play the big one, the bass. That's what I do. I played the bass. So that's when I started playing music, and yeah, I've been playing ever since. I must have been 12, turning 13. So I listen to a lot of classical, and I play a lot of classical, just because that's bass repertoire. I think a lot of my influences are classical composers. Personally, my favorite being Tchaikovsky, but I imitate Satie really a lot, just because I do a lot of piano stuff, and I just like the way his music sounds. But recently, I've been getting into a bit more jazz, just because I have friends that like jazz, I like listening to it. So I listen to a lot of Tigran Hamasyan, and his jazz is whack, but I like it a lot. I also like John Coltrane and Duke Ellington. I have a couple records with Louis Armstrong on it, so I think recently it's been jazz composers. Romantic era classical, especially on my piano stuff, but recently it's been a kind of jazz fusion, like soft jazz. Like one of my pieces was more like a rock jazz, but I've been working on a lot of others that are softer, I guess, if that makes sense. I joined Flat 7th or 8th grade shortly after I started composing. My experience has been great. I've been able to compose and make stuff. It's a lot harder to hear music just in your head, so it's nice being able to put it out on something and have it play back to me and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't put a tritone there or something. Accidentally I'll just write it down, and then when I put it in flat, it's like, oh cool, I don't have to make that mistake. As far as arrangements go, there's a user by the name of The British Pig that I really like, because they made good arrangements of a lot of Mario Kart music, which I just thought was amazing. But as far as original compositions go, Dylan S. It's very similar to the kind of music I like to compose and play myself, so I guess it's just familiar for me. Yeah, if anything, I have a ton of piano stuff, but my most, the piece of work I am most proud of is my submission for the May competition. Not saying it's the best one I've made, I like it a lot because it was the first piece I did in a different style than I'm used to. What my friend describes as jazz fusion, which is jazz rock kind of, and uses instruments I do not normally use, like an alto saxophone, a bass guitar, and a drum set. This is the first piece I published that legitimately uses the drum set. So I was pretty proud of that. Also, it's in 11/8 meter, which I thought was pretty hip and cool, I am in an orchestra in Denver, and we recently had a concert that had a piece that changed all sorts of meters, but the most common one was 11/8, so I really wanted to try it out, and I feel like I did a really nice job of that. My creative process is I'm humming to myself. I can't sing very good, but sometimes I'll sing to myself, or I'll be playing one of my instruments, and I'll hit something, and I'll be like, that sounds pretty cool. I'll just be screwing around on my bass, and I play a few notes that I think sound pretty cool. And so then from there, I will develop it in my head. I will play it over and over and over and over in my head, and my mind will predict where it's going. And if I like that path that it took, I'll write it down. This is exactly, I can go back to The Creator, the piece I made. This is exactly how that worked. I had a thing that I liked. On the piano, I played in A major 9th or 11th chord, I forget. I thought that was just, I thought that was the best thing ever. So I decided to figure out what to do with it, and then once I found the original measure pattern, which is in the first measure of the piece, I played it in my head, and it just kind of took off. So if I find like a little motif I really like, or a melody, or something, doesn't really matter, a chord progression, I will play it over and over and over again in my brain, and then wherever my mind takes it, I will just do my best to write it down, replicate it on paper. Like, I'll write it down on paper if I don't have a computer around, but if I have flat around, then it's just put it all there, and it's super streamlined, so that's kind of cool. Of course, I also like just write down melodies as I like, if I need to come up with specific sections, then I'll get down to business and like play it out on the piano and see what sounds good. But when I'm first starting a piece, it's just whatever my mind decides to give me. I'm like, okay, cool, and I just take it and run. Music means to me everything, because without it I would literally be going nowhere in life. It is, I feel like it's a way to express like feelings that you can't just with any one medium. Like, you can paint a painting and it's like, oh, that dude looks kind of sad, but it's very just, I feel like there's not a ton of depth to it, and like music has a lot of depth to it that I think that no other medium can replicate. Like, my favorite piece of classical music anyway is Tchaikovsky's Sixth Symphony, which is like super depressing, and I'm a happy dude, but it's like, it's not a very happy song or piece, and I just think it's profound, especially the last movement. Like, yeah, it's just one note he's playing, or a chord he's playing in any given moment, but it's just the context of it, the way it's being played, like the movements before you, if you listen to them, it really just brings something out that you couldn't have just done by just telling someone, oh yeah, I'm not feeling good today. Like, that's profound. Music is profound and can really like show people how you feel a lot better than you may be able to. I'm very sensitive to emotions. Like, I can read people pretty easy and also like react kind of strongly to things, but so like music is very effective with me anyway. Yes, I do, because I'm going to go to college for music. I play bass, and so that's my main thing, and I'm, not to brag, but I'm pretty darn good at it. So like, after high school, which I have one more year left, I plan on going to college for it. This is my dream, is to leave an impact on people that other people had on me, like, I want to teach music, I want to write music, I want to leave things behind, like, well after I'm gone, that people will be like, oh yeah, it's that guy. Not necessarily that I'm famous, but like, just important pieces of me that are still around well after I'm gone. Like, that's why I like composing so much. It's like, whatever happens in life, these things will likely still be here. So it's like little pieces of me and my thought that are still around. If you want to start composing, do it. But if you're starting to compose, I recommend you just keep things as simple as possible. I had the opportunity, fortunately, to be able to speak with an actual living professional composer. I went to the All-State Orchestra for my high school, well, for my state, Colorado, and we were able to speak on the phone, at least, with one of the composers of the pieces we played. So that was really cool. My question was, like, how do they write like a symphonic work? Like, how does it start? Like, do you just know what all the instruments are going to do, or like, do you write something else and orchestrate it? And she had said that you write almost like a piano reduction, something very simple, like a treble and a bass line. You write out the main parts, the main focal points of what's going on, and then you'll orchestrate it later. So a very good idea for beginning composers is to keep things as simple as you can at first. Just get out what needs to be there, and then later you can spice it up with whatever you want. I would have liked to know that anything can sound good. And what I mean by that is, when I was writing and I hear something that didn't sit with me right, I was like, okay, well, this can never work, and I just threw it out. And I have thrown out many a good idea out this way. And that's not good, because any idea can work. I was listening to Jacob Collier, if you have or have not heard of him, amazing jazz musician, or jazz, like anything musician, I don't know, neat guy. And one of his short videos was making sure that a chord fits with the context. Not necessarily that a chord sounds bad, like you can have a chord with all sorts of tritones in it, but as long as it's in the right context, it sounds good. So I would have liked to know that, like, even if it doesn't sound good initially, or like in this specific spot, that doesn't mean it's bad, it just means I need to create the right context for it. And that's what's helped me like a lot as I slowly but surely figured that out. It's like, just because something doesn't sound right there doesn't mean it won't be good. You know, flat is just, I mean, it's just a software. If we're just thinking simply, like, it's gonna sound different in real life, which is what I'm more concerned about. I'm not as concerned about just making sure it sounds good on this website, which is great. Some people do that, whatever, like, good for you. But my concern is being able to make music that could be played in real life, and I want to sound good there. And a lot of times, like, high notes on bass may not sound good on flat, but it'll sound good in real life. So just making sure you know that. I wish I'd known that things sound a lot better than I think. And like, sometimes it's just I need to find the right context, or, you know, work it out in a different way. Just don't throw things away, basically.